Hey guys, it's Chandler, and welcome to the Healing Heroes.
I promise you.
I'm Chandler Stroud, an executive, wife, and busy mom of two, who after years of living with anxiety, health struggles, and an unshakable feeling like I should be happier, made a profound discovery that changed everything. Join me on a journey where unexpected paths lead to healing and more happiness. On this show, we'll explore unconventional ways to unlock more joy in your own life with the help of my very own healers and trusted advisors, the Healing Heroes. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. I am so thrilled to be back with our hero and mindset coach, Katie Wee, talking about a topic that all of us have likely had some experience with, and that's the art of self-sabotage. Yes, how we can get in our own way and either knowingly or subconsciously prevent ourselves from getting what we want or need in the process. I have definitely felt this in areas of my life, most notably in professional matters. There are moments where I was given an opportunity to present in a big meeting, take on a notable project, or even go for a new role where I made myself small. I was recently giving a talk to a local moms group, actually, and had spent a ton of time practicing my key messages so not to forget anything and speak without reading off the page. About 5 minutes to the end of my talk, I panicked that I had forgotten an entire page of my speech that I felt was incredibly important in landing my message, even if it was possible that the audience would never know it was missing. You could see the moment on camera, the shift in energy on my face and in my posture. I had a physical reaction to the idea of looking foolish in front of that room. My face turned red and I started to sweat. I read off the paper instead of looking up with confidence. My entire demeanor shifted. And the worst part was that I had nailed it up until that point. I hadn't forgotten a page. I just planted that idea because of limiting beliefs I'm still working to extinguish to this day. At least I can recognize this pattern in myself when it does tend to arise, where it originates from. And now my focus is on how to change it so I can live in the energy of enoughness when speaking to a crowd. Yes, this is a very timely conversation today, and I'm so thrilled to be having it with the one and only Katie Wee. Before we begin, here's a quick overview of Katie's background for those joining us for the first time today. Katie is a mindset coach, speaker, writer, actress, survivor, and the founder of Happy Camp. You may have seen Katie on TV shows such as Modern Family, Hawaii Five-0, New Girl, or General Hospital, or have read her writing in Newsweek or the Huffington Post. At Happy Camp, she teaches others how to love themselves on the deepest level and to use manifestation to create what they want in their lives, all while blissing out in paradise. Katie, long time no see. I am so glad that you're back with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be back.
Oh, we love having you. And I love these conversations because inevitably I always have a list of questions and we just stop asking them and get into flow state and just start talking. And it's so fun. And I love the insights you share with our listeners. So very excited about this one, since I know all of us are guilty at some point in time of some form of self-sabotage.
I can relate to this so much. Self-sabotage is a huge reason why I got into mindset coaching. I started to see it in my own life, to understand the way it can affect a life, and to understand and really feel for myself what can change when you can start to overcome self-sabotage and start to become aware of the patterns that create it. So I love talking about this because I think that there's just such a huge amount of change it can provide in someone's life when they start to understand how it's kind of rearing its head in their life and what they can do to change that.
Love it. And I think you touched on something so important, which is just acknowledging that it's there and that you do it, right? Because that's the first step in anything.
Oh my gosh, completely. I used to see that word self-sabotage and think like, that means like really like harming yourself in a huge way that I don't do, That's
Mhm.
not me. I was like, I don't self-sabotage. And then the more I started to read, learn, understand self-sabotage, and then really apply that thinking to my own life, I realized, oh my gosh, I self-sabotaged in ways that were really affecting my life. And I had things that I really wanted in my life. At the time that I was really getting into this, I was single. I'd gotten divorced a couple years earlier, and I really wanted to find a partner. I wanted to become a mom. I wanted to have a career that provided me with some sort of fulfillment. Felt kind of empty in what I was doing. And I wanted to make consistent money. As an actress was always kind of up and down. Like when you book a job, you make money. When you don't work, you don't make money. And feeling really beholden to things I couldn't control, like whether or not I booked the role for my survival was scary and stressful. And I just felt like I was in this place of not having a lot of things I wanted. Didn't have the money, didn't have the fulfillment, didn't have the relationship. And I felt like, okay, time's ticking. I'm getting older. I want to connect to these things. And I realized if I wasn't willing to really be honest with myself about the ways my mindset was self-sabotaging me having those things that I wanted, then I was never going to change my state. And I was always going to be one of those people that didn't have what they wanted and was like, oh, well, it must be this, must be that, blaming it on something external when really it's internal. We let ourselves have what we let ourselves have. And it's like at a certain point, I had to ask myself, are you willing to let yourself be happier? Are you willing to let yourself be more financially prosperous? Are you willing to let yourself be fulfilled? And on the conscious level, you might say yes. But on the subconscious level, your mind is often like, no, that's scary. I don't want that really.
Oh, it's so crazy how that happens. But yeah, I want to dive into that today because I do think that that's so often at play and we don't even realize that that's the dynamic and the conflict that's happening within. And I know, Katie, you've covered this many times in previous episodes together, but for those listeners who are new here, can you just share a very quick overview of what mindset coaching is, what it is you do, and why people come to you for help?
Mindset coaching is the process of becoming aware of how your mind works and then being willing to change the way that you think so that your mindset can serve you in your life, so that you can actually utilize your mindset to create the results that you want in your life and make yourself happier. Often we think the way we think doesn't matter. The way you think matters so much. How you think is creating your reality. And when I started to really realize that, understand that for myself, my whole life changed. And so I help my clients change their lives by changing the way they think.
Love that. So succinct, so clear and concise. Like, thank you. That's a beautiful explanation for listeners. So now we can get into the meat of today's topic. And I'd love to start our conversation by helping people recognize self sabotage when it occurs. How do you define self sabotage? And what are some of the most common ways you think people engage in it?
Hmm. The way I define self sabotage is when someone's mindset perceives what they truly want as unsafe. And so they will pull themselves back from being able to achieve it. They will not allow the things that would make that possible to really happen. They will take the action that's most habitual, not necessarily the action that's going to get them to what they want, in order to stay feeling safe. So self-sabotage is often when the nervous system pokes its head out and goes, this isn't good for us, because the nervous system wants to stay in what it knows, in the familiar. So even though it might not be fun to be single and to feel lonely and to feel kind of unloved and like you don't have what you want, if you've been that way for a really long time, your nervous system is really comfortable with just you being the one who has access to your heart. It's scary to open up your heart. So even if your goal is, I want to find a partner, if your nervous system is so comfortable in it's just me and letting someone else in is terrifying, then you'll self-sabotage whenever you have the opportunity to get close to somebody, whenever it gets to that point where you're going to need to open your heart a little bit. So you won't be able to connect to that thing that you want because you're going to feel more comfortable in being where you don't want to be. And so that's when the conscious mind and the subconscious mind sort of become at odds, and we make it impossible for ourselves to achieve what we want because a deeper part of us feels safer being in this place that we quote unquote don't want to be.
How does self sabotage disguise itself? Are there behaviors people mistake for whether it's productivity or self protection? Are those actually forms of self sabotage?
The best way for me to talk about the answer to this question is to think about my own life and some of my clients' lives. So I'll just give some examples. So many of us say we want to be happier, we want to feel more relaxed, we want to have more flow and ease in our life, but we're addicted to productivity, stress, being busy. If you're one of those people, this is absolutely me who can't sit still. It's like you have an hour of freedom in your day in between your appointments, and you could relax and read your book and get in the sunshine. And that would actually be really conducive to meeting your goals of becoming more relaxed and feeling ease in your life. But with that hour, you're like, ooh, I could go return that Amazon thing. And then I could return that call and pay that bill. And then, you know what? If I'm really good, I could clean out that drawer. And if I really want to be on top of it, I could send out 10 Christmas cards. This was me during Christmas card season. I'm like, oh, just get it going, you know? And you're
I mean,
addicted
guilty
to
as
right,
charged.
right.
Yes.
Productivity feels good, especially for so many of us type A achievers. You're like, what would feel really good is at the end of this hour, I have something to show for it. That would feel so good. And so maybe you have this goal of like, gosh, I just want to feel relaxed. I just want to be not so stressed. Maybe you're experiencing physical symptoms of that stress. You can't sleep. Your digestion is off. You're starting to age faster. You're like, oh, if only I could just relax a little bit more, if I could just introduce that lifestyle. But then when you have the chance, you don't, because your nervous system is really comfortable being in that go, 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 and that earning your self-worth feeling. And you don't actually give yourself the chance to relax. So that's self-sabotage right there in a way that I think a lot of us can relate to it.
100%. I mean, I literally this morning was like, there is a yoga class that I want to make that is literally 15 minutes from the earliest I can drop off my kids. So I
Yeah.
had us all like, guys, let's help mom make yoga, right?
Mhm.
So we're like piling in the car. We're trying to go the short way to school. At a stoplight, I'm like, ooh, I got to post about the new episode that released today. I should use these 2.5 minutes wisely. And I mean, it was fun. It was a game. My goal this week, especially, was not to relax because life is just busy. It's one of those weeks. But I consciously said to myself, this is exactly what you tell other women not to do, which is to pack too much in like an hour. But this morning it
Yes.
was kind of fun because all the stars aligned and we made all the green lights and I got the
Yes.
post up and I had yoga and
Yes.
I felt like a totally different person. But
Ah,
anyway, just to say, I feel you. And this is something even I continue to struggle with is this need to earn your worth from external places and the dopamine hit you get from being productive.
yes, completely. And it can feel so good to get those things done, right? The Christmas cards do need to go out. Like the post does need to go up at some point. Like I understand, of course, but sometimes we can lose the plot. And a lot of times when I get women at to happy camp or in a coaching session and we really get honest about like what is it you want? Describe to me your dream life. How does it feel? Oh, imagine it. What is that version of you like? And how is that version of you different than this version of you? So often, the version of them that they are wanting to be just feels better in their own skin, just feels more relaxed, more abundant, more like, I got everything I want. I'm in this place of appreciation. They're not in the like constant striving. I think a lot of us who are in the constant striving, though we're doing it, we aspire to not be in it. We aspire to
Yes.
be like still achieving and accomplishing. Of course, that's part of being a human. Is we're going to get things done. But we don't want it to be the point, the purpose. We want it to be like an after effect, like a natural consequence of us being us. And so that can be sort of like one way self-sabotage shows up in terms of making it difficult to become relaxed. Another way that I have experienced, and I've noticed a lot of other people experiencing this in with my clients, is through money. I had a lot of limiting beliefs as a kid around being worthy of money. And it was interesting because a lot of money was spent on me as a kid, but I was so aware of that and I felt so bad about it. I felt so guilty about it. Specifically, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I was sexually abused as a kid, and it was by my ballet teacher who we were paying money to like a lot of money to train me. And I was aware of how expensive that training program was. Like, gosh, so much money is being spent on me. And then those sessions ended up becoming used for abuse. And I started to feel so guilty about that. And in particular, just so unworthy of that money being spent on me. I had three other brothers, a family where it was like these resources could be spent somewhere else and they're being spent on me and it's being wasted. And so I felt very uncomfortable with money being spent on me. And I remember my dad, we were on this trip when I was in college to Hong Kong, and he wanted to buy me something like a gift, a souvenir. And I was like, no, really adamantly. And he was like really pushing, and I started crying. I was, no, I don't want a gift. Like, it was so uncomfortable for me to receive that, an expensive gift. And as I got older, even though I would say, I want lots of money. And as an actress, like, I'd got opportunities to connect to jobs that were going to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I was going to be a lead on a TV show and on a big network. And whenever those opportunities came up where I could make a lot of money, like, and what felt to me like a ton of money, it's like clammy chills, nervous, stressed, and I couldn't be my best. I could be loose and easy and relaxed and my best on a job that was going to pay me like $5,000. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I feel worthy of that. But when it came to $300,000, I was like, oh, I don't feel worthy of that. Like, I couldn't let myself have it. I couldn't rise to that occasion. And that became really interesting for me to notice and became a limiter in my career. And I noticed that as I created my own business, that I was really comfortable receiving just enough money to get by. But having a surplus, the idea of like being able to make more money than I needed, to me was scary. And I felt wrong and I didn't want to do it. And I made up all these reasons in my head as like why I couldn't do it. Well, people won't pay that, or other people don't charge that, or, whatever. That's what the conscious mind will do, try to justify why it feels the way it feels. But really, I was just uncomfortable with the idea of having a surplus of money in my life. And I had to really retrain my brain to see that as safe, to see that as okay, to see myself as worthy of that so that I could manifest more abundance into my life.
Those are great examples. Thank you for sharing both of those. I think it's so clear. And I really feel like so many of us do this to ourselves in so many areas of life. I mean, I thought that the examples you gave were perfect, but it's really amazing how we get in our own way, and we do so subconsciously or unconsciously so much of the time. I mean, it's really wild. I couldn't have told you all those times that I was getting in my own way, whether it's job interviews or projects or opportunities at work. Like, I never would have said I'm self-sabotaging or I don't want this. But, my behaviors and what I said I wanted were never aligned.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in that place where we're like, this is what I want. And if you find yourself in a place of really wanting something and continually not having it, I've been saying for years, I want this, but I don't have it. That's a really good place to ask yourself, is there a self-sabotaging belief in here? Because the way that things get into our subconscious mind are through repetition. And just to kind of overview the subconscious mind a little bit, over 90% of our thoughts come from our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind cannot accept or reject. Our conscious mind, the part that's responsible for roughly 10% of our thoughts, you can be like, I don't really jive with that. Like, if somebody tells you something like, this is really bad for you, you shouldn't eat it. You're like, I don't know. Not for me. Your conscious mind will do that, Your subconscious
Yes.
mind can only accept. So what you put into your subconscious mind is really important because it's just going to soak it up like a sponge. But let's say you're a kid, like I was, and you absorb this idea of like, I'm not worthy of money, or I'm not worthy of love, or I don't deserve the things I want, or those things, they're for other people, they're not for me. And it just gets in there by some way, shape, or form. Your grandmother says something. You have some experience at school that's scarring. Your friends all believe this thing when you're like 10 years old, and it just seeps into your subconscious. Your parents believe this, think this, talk about this. So many of our caretakers, parents usually, or grandparents, their belief systems have been passed down into us. And so maybe you grew up in a family that was really, really, really frugal. And then you marry somebody who's like a total spender. And it's like, that fear, even though you think you can jive with them, even though you're like, yeah, let's enjoy our money. Let's spend it. Let's be responsible, but enjoy the spending of our money. There's maybe a part of you that's like, I got to hold it. I got to hold it. I got to hold it. I got to hoard it. It's not okay to spend it. And there's people who are millionaires out there who spend like they're, just trying to get by this month. and can't connect to the energy of like, it's okay to spend $500 on a hotel room. It's okay to buy everything you need at the grocery store. Because your subconscious belief system, whatever it is, however it got there, has been downloaded into your brain and it makes decisions for you. So when you have a belief in your subconscious mind, maybe like the first few times that it gets in there, like let's say you think you're not beautiful. And when you see a beautiful woman walk by and you're a little 8-year-old girl, maybe your first thought is, she's so beautiful. And then you think, and I'm not beautiful. And then you start to marinate in that belief system and it doesn't feel so good. Maybe that's the first time that happens. But then every single time something triggers this idea of your own beauty, it starts to become automatic. It's not even like she's beautiful, I'm not beautiful, series of thoughts. It just, you see a commercial for Neutrogena and you're like, I'm not beautiful. You see a beautiful person walk by you and you think, I'm not beautiful. You see somebody have their wedding and you're there sitting in the audience and they're walking down the aisle and you're thinking she's beautiful and she's married and I'm not married and I won't get married because I'm not beautiful. It just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And that process becomes automatic. The subconscious mind likes to automate things to make it easier for you so that your life can run quickly. You become like a computer program. And so there's subconscious ideas in there that you might not even jive with anymore, that you might not actually believe, but your mind has picked it up and has become automatic in that programming. So you automatically categorize certain things as not for you and certain things as for you. And so if we're willing to become brave enough to look at what's in the subconscious mind, to really look at our limiting beliefs, and this is something that I help people do at Happy Camp, this is something I do in coaching, to isolate and understand the limiting beliefs. You look at the area where you don't have what you want and you really want it. And you start to distill yourself down. And you say, well, what would someone who is really wanting this outcome, who says that they dream of this outcome, but they're continually living without it, what might they believe about themselves? If it was somebody else, what might that person believe about themselves? You get people like really stumped for a while and kind of like, oh, it's like, I don't know, that I don't deserve that. Is that what I think? And you go, okay, interesting. And if that were true, that you believe you don't deserve that, what might be some of the situations in your life that created that? Think, oh, well, yeah, I was never allowed to have anything expensive as a kid. And the one time that I was given this really nice gift by my grandmother, my mom said, that's too expensive. We're returning it. You don't need that. Or the one time that I went and applied for the job that was going to get me a lot more money, I applied and I really cared and I didn't get it. And those situations could have created an affirmation of that idea. So to unpack and understand. And then the thing about the subconscious mind is that once an idea, belief is in there, we project it onto things and make it true. So maybe those situations created it in the beginning of your life, but then when it's time to, you have, let's say, plenty of money in your bank account, like the surplus, and there's this dress you absolutely love and you're trying it on at a store and it looks phenomenal on you and your friends are like, you have to buy that, but it's more expensive than a dress that you've ever bought before and you can afford it. And you go, I don't deserve that. And then when you don't have that dress and you think about it all the time, years from now, you're still thinking about that dress, you wish you bought it. You go, but I don't deserve that. It just reaffirms that. And then when an opportunity for more money comes along again, you don't even apply for the job because you don't feel you deserve that. You're so set in that type of thinking. So now you're in the situation where you don't have the job that gives you the money. So you still feel unworthy of it. You don't have the things you want, like the dress, because you feel unworthy of it. So it calcifies into this sort of self-affirming prophecy of, I believed this because of some negative things that happened, but then I projected it onto my future. So I'm still in the situation where I'm in the place of not having what I want. And that is how self-sabotage so sneakily and so trickily weaves its way into our life. And we start to feel like, well, this is just my lot in life, when really your future is up to you. You can create the reality you want. You can change your life at any time. Look at you, look at me. You can create the change you want in your life, but you have to be willing to do the sometimes very uncomfortable work of weeding out the limiting beliefs from your subconscious mind so that you stop self-sabotaging.
That was very cool to hear you talk through that whole process, start to finish. I mean, I don't think you can talk about self-sabotage without going deep in the subconscious mind and really understanding how ideas get planted there and then how we water them. over time
Mhm.
is just, I think it's really important for people to understand, because I think so often, again, we think, oh, I'm fine. I'm great. I love myself. I've got all these great things. I'm living this blessed life. I'm so lucky. Like, it's really hard sometimes to really stop and pause and really give airtime to, what do I want in this life and what's stopping me from getting there? Could it be
Mhm.
me?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So I think it was really helpful to hear you talk through that and how it becomes so automatic, because I don't think a lot of people don't think about the framework or the structure of how these ideas get planted and then continue to impact how we show up in the present.
Yeah. Something that I reference this book a lot, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And
Mm.
he talks about self sabotage when it comes to happiness in a way that I think we can all relate to. And he talks about this idea of like him being really happy, this moment he was in, really good, feeling better than he had in a long time. And then all of a sudden, his brain switched to worrying about his daughter who was abroad. And is she okay? Is she safe? I hope she's okay. And he calls the program that she's studying with, and they're like, yeah, I'm watching her right now. She's playing outside. She's having a great time. She's really good. But it's this idea of like when we start to feel really good. And the next time you, listener, notice yourself being like, I feel great. Like you're post yoga, you feel all relaxed and glowy and hold on to it rather than notice your first reaction. Most of us pick up our phone, open our email or open our text, find the problem. Could there be a problem? Is my kid okay? Is there a deadline I missed? Like, are you quick when you feel happy to switch it quickly to feeling a different way, to feeling stressed, feeling worried, feeling anxious, feeling guilty for feeling happy? And can you instead try to hold that higher frequency feeling longer? Can you feel happy and then stay that way? Continue thinking thoughts of like, and this is a really beautiful day. And you know what? Maybe I'll go get that matcha latte that I love from that place. And oh, I so grateful that I got that stretch and it feels so good. My hamstrings feel so much better. Can you stay there a little bit longer? Because it takes about 17 seconds for a thought to collect another thought that's like it. So if you're
Mm.
thinking positively for 17 seconds, okay, great. In comes another positive thought. Keep that one going. Okay, another 17. In comes another one. But when we're sort of uncomfortable feeling happy, feeling joyful, because for a lot of people, joy can feel scary. If you're not used to feeling predominantly joyful, feeling joyful for a long period of time, you're like, when's the other shoe going to drop? What's going to happen? I must be forgetting something. Somebody must be mad at me. And we pull in a way to feel less good because that's actually more comfortable for our nervous system.
Totally. But I mean, that resonates in such a big way. I can absolutely see how that would happen. I really do. Thank you for sharing that. I am curious, once we recognize that we're stuck in these patterns, what are the first steps to shifting into a space of self support?
The way you speak to yourself is so incredibly important. The longest relationship you're ever going to have with anybody is the one you have with yourself.
Mm.
And that dialogue between you and you that's happening inside your head is 24/7. You're always speaking to yourself, narrating your environment to yourself. Like, oh, I guess I should move there. But thinking about setting up a yoga mat in class. Like, oh, but then I'll be blocking her. And this is a good spot, but it's kind of too close to the light. Maybe I don't want to be by the window. This is fine. I can't see the teacher, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll be good. We're always narrating our environment to us. And we're narrating ourself to us. We are talking to ourselves about ourselves. And so when you notice a thought, just becoming aware of your thoughts is really the headline here of like noticing and paying attention to your thoughts. When you notice a thought that is not one that you'd like to keep marinating in your subconscious mind, when you notice a thought like, let's say we're going to be at Happy Camp together soon. So this is a good
Can't
example.
wait.
Yeah. Let's say you're sitting on the beach at Happy Camp and the sun is setting and everything's perfect. And you had a great day of yoga and meditation and mindset coaching and you're feeling relaxed and happy. And as the sun is setting, you're really thinking, I'm just so grateful for this life. I'm just so grateful for this life. And then finally, a little green dot shows and then the sun goes down. And then you think, I think I'm missing whatever I'm supposed to be doing right now. I think I'm supposed to be doing something different right now. I think I'm off of the calendar. I'm off the schedule. And you notice that fear-based thought rather than
Mm.
panicked going into your phone, looking for the schedule again, and then realizing that you're actually totally fine. What if you go, before I look at my phone, it's okay if I'm late for the next exercise. This moment was incredibly valuable no matter what. All is well, Chandler. All is well. And then you might open up your phone, find the schedule, see that you're totally good, and your mood and your energy has been preserved. You notice that first thought, but then you choose the second thought because often
Mm.
your first thought is just an automatic program. So you hold that thought captive, like, the panic thought. What if I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time? That feeling. Go, oh, okay. Before I respond to that one and let that one be the boss, let me choose a second one. And that second one can be, no matter what, all is well. Okay. With that energy, you can go look at your phone. You can make your next move, but allow that second thought to inform your action rather than just being reactive. The goal is to be responsive rather than reactive. And it's so
Love
natural
that.
for most of us to kind of catch ourselves just in these cycles of reactivity, whether it's to stress or to fear, worry. But what if you just exercise that ability to really choose the second thought? And remember, that's where all your power is. In that little space between stimulus and response, all of your power is right there. So noticing the first thought, choosing the second thought. And then over time, the brain will start to choose the second thought as the first thought. We just gently retrain the brain in that direction. And when you start to become aware of self-sabotage, you're going to maybe notice the things that you say you want, but you keep yourself from. And then you'll start to notice the thoughts that perpetuate that. The thoughts, and it might be recurring thoughts in a similar vein of like, oh, it's consistently these thoughts of I don't have enough that perpetuate my overworking. That's interesting. What if every time one of those thoughts of like, I don't have enough comes up, you say to yourself, I have everything I need. All my needs are met in this moment. And then you take action from that new place. That's how we just gently start to rewire the mind to create more positive thought patterns that are more conducive to supporting us rather than detracting from us having the things that we say we want.
I'm having such an aha moment right now. Like, this is so helpful to hear because it's such a valuable tool. I mean, what you're saying, anybody can use any time of day in any area of your life. So you and I in mindset coaching sessions, for me, it's like earning my worth. It's the productivity, right? Like that's been a big focus as my example this morning, trying to post, making sure I'm getting to yoga, right? And trust me, there have been more times than not that I actually do pause and I ask myself, why am I in such a rush right now? Do I need to be in this state? And I am able to but the simple thing you're suggesting is just wait, there's more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'm in this state, but wait, there's more. What else could I be feeling right now?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just give yourself a moment to ask yourself if you want to be choosing this path or if there's another one you could take. I mean, you can do this in a matter of seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. I feel like I remember the times that I've actually started to retrain that subconscious mind stand out in my memory as moments that demonstrate how I'm healing in a really powerful way, right? Whether it's like I'm racing and starting to yell at my kids because we're late for soccer on a Saturday morning. And then I stop and I say, why do I care if that we're late for soccer? You know? And in that moment, we stop fighting and we sit and we can put the cleats on and I can make my kids feel seen and heard. They're frustrated. They've had to get off the couch from watching TV, which sounds like, a big deal. But like to them, if you can make them feel heard in that moment, they're so much more willing to collaborate with you on getting out the door. And you can do it from this peaceful place that, to your point, brings and invites more of that positive energy in throughout the day. And it just kind of builds on itself. And I really love this concept of just waiting to see what the other response or the other answer could be in a lot of these different situations. Because I think about it in the sense of productivity, but it could span even like eating, right? Like say you're eating too much, you want to lose weight. And it's like, ooh, I really want peanut butter. Wait, hold a second. Do you really want peanut butter? What else could be going on here? And maybe you really want peanut butter, but at least you're intentionally doing that versus I'm bored or I'm trying to keep myself from something else. So I'm going to go to the kitchen, right? I mean, that's just one example that came off the top of my head. But like, I love this concept of pausing and thinking about how else you could respond to whatever the stimuli is, whatever that situation is, because it's such a tangible, accessible way to change.
Yes. Yes, it's just becoming conscious inside your experience. And so I tell my clients, talk about this all the time. You are the creator of your reality. And people go, what does that mean? Explain that to me. And what that means is that your thoughts create your reality. What you think, let's say a thought of like, I just want peanut butter. It's a great example. Creates a feeling of need, maybe like, I need that. This compulsion. I'm like, I need that. I have to do that. I can't not do that. We've all been there. My God. And then you go eat the peanut butter and you stick your spoon in and you have a huge glob of it and you feel out of control. And you're like, I am just responding to this thing that's happening inside me. I don't have any control over my life. And then after one spoonful, you're like, here's another. Here's another. Actually, now I want some ice cream. Actually, now I want some chocolate covered almonds. And then the next day you're like, well, I just sabotaged my diet. There I went because my unconscious programming took over. I was unable to overcome this like urge inside of me. And then let's say the other option is this, I really want peanut butter. And you, instead of just going, okay, I must, you go, do I really want peanut butter? And you maybe think about like what you've eaten that day and your goals. You think about your goals. And you're like, okay, with what I've eaten today and with my goals, I could have like a small spoon of peanut butter and that would still be within my like allowance for what I can eat today. And that would feel like a really satisfying end of like dessert, like, the end of my day. Cap it off with a little spoonful of peanut butter. That would feel great. I'd feel good about that. You know what? I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have the right amount. And I'm going to put it down because that's going to feel really empowering to not blow this day where I had like salad and oatmeal and like I didn't have my sugary latte. Like I sacrificed a lot today. I don't want to throw it all away right now at 10 o'clock at night, So like you have that like small spoonful of peanut butter and you savor it. You take like 5 minutes to really lick that spoon. You're like, okay. And then you wash the spoon and you put it in the dishwasher and you tell yourself like, okay, I chose to just let that be how it was because I consciously decided I was going to have that, And you leave it and you go brush your teeth and you go to bed and you wake up the next morning, you step on the scale and you're half a pound lighter. You're like, oh gosh, this, you've been working at this for weeks and the fact that it's paying off, it feels so good. But letting yourself meet your goals is self-love. And so many of us think self-love is just surrendering to like what I want in the moment. Well, maybe, but if that doesn't serve your goals, that's not really serving you overall, your soul overall, because you're a human with a soul, right? We're kind of like two people at the same time. You're a soul emanating through a human body. We are at the same time concurrently our highest self and our human self, our soul and our ego, however we want to think about it. And we really want to start thinking about how do I serve the needs of my soul over the wants of my ego. And our ego might be like, I need sugar on my tongue right now, or I need money in my pocket right now, or I need a boyfriend yesterday, like it's so embarrassing to be single for so long, But the soul might go, I need to feel like I can respect myself. And when I continually blow my goals and, triple the amount of food that I said I was going to eat and continue to gain weight when I say I want to lose weight, I'm not feeling like I can trust myself or respect myself because I go against my own self so often. Your human self might think I want to lose weight, but your soul is going, I just need to feel safe with me and whole with me and to feel healthy and like I can live the way I want to live. And you might think you really need a boyfriend because it's embarrassing to be single for so long, but your soul is craving connection and love. And so really, our human self is best utilized when it's serving our soul's desires, when the human can serve the soul's desires. And so with the things that you want, asking yourself, it's probably not just about the money. You maybe want the freedom to be able to say no to things that aren't in alignment with you. But if you always need the money, you have to say yes to everything that comes your way. And you're kind of like doing stuff that you don't really want to do because you need the money. But you maybe want the freedom to be able to say, I'm going to take 3 months off, because you need it, you want it. Maybe you think you want that next job because you're like, that title would look so good on my LinkedIn. Yeah. And then all my coworkers would like feel so jealous of me and I would feel really good about myself. And maybe that's why you think you want that next job, but maybe what you really want is to feel expanded and challenged. And there's this deeper thing within you that wants to like know your own strength, know your own ability. And so when we just start to become conscious inside our experience, just become aware, make our choices from consciousness rather than lack of consciousness, we become the creator of our own reality because our thoughts create how we feel, our feelings create our actions, and our actions create our life. It's as simple as that. If you take all the steps to apply for that job and to be ready for that position, and then you get that job, yeah, your actions have created that outcome. If you don't make yourself the person who's ready for that promotion and you don't apply for it and you don't do any of the work and you don't get that job, yeah, you've created that outcome too. So if you want to be the creator of your reality in a positive way and make your dreams come true, you have to look at the deeper reason why you want the thing and then become conscious in your choice making in the moment. Be the chooser rather than just the reactor.
Yeah, I think that reminder to respond versus react is so powerful because, again, it's empowering, right? It allows you to take back the direction that your life is going in. And that starts by these small everyday moments that accumulate over time and build on one another. So I think it's a really good reminder, for not just listeners, for myself too. I mean, you can be healing and still find yourself in these traps in certain situations, just like I did this morning. And it's so grounding to be able to come back and say, whoa, we can keep going down this road, but we know where that leads. Like, take a beat and just like, why? Maybe there's another choice here. And I think that's a really powerful thing. It's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
One thing you touched on that I know resonates very deeply for me is that many women struggle with feeling like they're not enough or always needing to do more, as we've been talking about. How can we start shifting into the energy of being enough?
I have dealt with this feeling of not enoughness. So many of us think that we're alone in it. Like it's embarrassing, shameful secret of like, yeah, not feeling good enough. I guess that's why I do all these things. I guess that's why I dress like this. I guess that's why I choose men that don't choose me back. And I think something that's really useful in starting to reprogram this idea of enoughness is to just look at everything we are. This is an exercise that I put clients through a lot, is what are the things about yourself that have nothing to do with your earning, your achieving, your doing that you like about yourself? What are some qualities that are just inherent in you that you like about yourself? And usually at first they just look at me like, what? And like, start writing. And I'm like, okay. And then after like a few seconds, they're like, I'm done. Like, no, keep going. Like, dig a little. Imagine that this were someone else and you had the assignment, like someone you love, like your best friend, your sister, you had the assignment of like really showing them everything that they are. And eventually people get down to things like, yeah, I'm empathetic. I'm compassionate. I'm kind. I'm generous. I'm funny. I'm loving. I'm considerate. I'm thoughtful. I'm intelligent. I'm beautiful. Things that just inherent in you. I'm able to, take feedback. I'm able to take feedback and to integrate it. And like, that's a huge skill. If these were qualities in somebody else, you would want to appreciate them. If you had the assignment of showing your partner or your friend who they are, wouldn't you just love that? Because doesn't it hurt when you see somebody you love ragging on themselves, really sitting in the not enoughness? And there's such a natural bias in the human brain to focus on the negative. Truly primal, like scanning our environment and looking for the one thing that's negative because that could be a threat to our safety. That bush moved. Maybe there's a lion back there, so I got to pay attention. So I'm not going to look at the sunset or, any of these beautiful trees over here or any of these sweet animals in front of me. I'm just going to see that thing, the problem. We look for the problem because the problem could be in danger. That's crucial. Like our nervous system, first job, keep you safe, keep you alive. So we look for the problem. And that nowadays, most of us are not facing imminent danger in our daily life. So the danger becomes internalized. Where is it that I'm not enough? And it's so common, especially for women, when something goes wrong, to immediately go to, how did I make this happen? What is it in me that made him break up with me? What is it in me that made me not get this opportunity? How did I create this problem? I should have left earlier. I wouldn't have missed my flight. Well, maybe you couldn't have known there was going to be an extra 45 minutes of traffic. Like sometimes there's just things out of your control. And so I've noticed, especially because I coach men too, men are more likely to kind of say like, that was out of my control. Women are very quick to find reasons why, in my experience, it's them. The problem is them. And I think that there's a lot of factors that have created this, there's There are societal factors, there are interpersonal factors, there might be, ways that your family has operated, there might be your natural programmings, and we teach people how to treat us. So if we always say, it's my fault, my bad, eventually you're going to notice other people blaming you too. Because why didn't you Google Maps this? Well, why didn't you Google Maps this? Like, if you're always the one going, I should have figured that out. I'm sorry that didn't go well. It should have been me. People start to actually believe you. And then you're the one receiving all the blame for all the things. And so women tend to take on the blame, which also makes people put more of the blame on them. And then, especially for some of my clients who are moms, they're like, why is it always me? I have a 16-year-old kid who could have taken out the trash. It's like, it's always on me. But if we're always taking the responsibility for everything, we train our loved ones into this pattern. And so if you want to change this, just becoming aware of the ways in which your brain is naturally creating a case against you and stopping that. Being willing to go, okay, I missed my flight and I have to pay for another flight. And it's okay. I'm not going to wallow in this guilt and shame all day long. This happened. I couldn't have predicted that. I could have left earlier. Like, it's okay. I forgive myself. Moving on. But the more we harp on this negativity with ourselves, this blaming, this shaming, this guilt, the more we saturate our relationship with ourselves with low frequency emotion. And then the next time something else comes up, we're just primed and ready to do the same thing over and over again because we have that pattern. So if you feel like you're just constantly, I think a lot of us feel like this, trying to dodge feeling bad, you're like, oh, I'm just hoping I don't feel bad, but I feel bad all the time. If you're noticing that feeling of living in guilt or living in worry or living in, oh, my bad, I just always can't do enough, feeling like we're just living in not enoughness, pay attention to the ways in which you're quick to make that story about you, the ways in which you're quick to blame yourself. Because every time we degrade our beautiful relationship with ourselves, we make it harder for us to feel happy with the version of ourselves that we're living with. And every time you give yourself grace and you speak to yourself the way you'd speak to a best friend, you empower that relationship with yourself. You start to make it one where you're like, I like being with me, because being with me, I'm with someone who's kind. As long as you're always with somebody who's punitive and blaming and judgmental, you're like, I hate being with myself. I just need a few glasses of wine every night so I can feel like I'm not with myself. Well, the goal is to like being with you. So stop being so mean to yourself. I think the easiest and most actionable tip for feeling like enough, because you are enough, and all of those attributes that make you wonderful and that other people love in you, if you start seeing those, appreciating those, valuing those, commending yourself every time one of those shows its head, and you stop the cycle of constantly bringing out what you think are your worst qualities and blaming yourself every time something goes wrong, you're going to start to, over time, create this relationship with yourself of enoughness.
I love that. Thank you. That's so valuable. I mean, that is so helpful for listeners to be thinking about. And I think it's such tangible advice that they can really take to heart. Thank you, Katie. Katie, this has been so helpful. Thank you. I have to ask, what's one piece of advice you'd give someone who is just realizing that they've been self-sabotaging themselves, but maybe feels overwhelmed about making changes in their life?
Start small. If you have one moment today where you choose differently, you choose a different thought, you really take responsibility for that second thought, you've won. You've become the creator of your own experience because you're no longer on automatic programming. You're choosing the way that you're moving. Start small. Do it one time today where, dinner, you're cooking and you said dinner was going to be on the table at 7:30 and it's 7:30 and you're not done. And you're like, I'm such a failure. This always happens to me. Oh, second thought, it's not a big deal. I'm doing great. This dinner's going to be wonderful. And then when you're sitting at the table at 7:45 and everyone's loving the dinner and you're loving the dinner and it truly isn't a big deal for anyone, you're there enjoying that meal rather than being like, I'm sorry that it wasn't on the table at 7:30 and just a long day and frustrated and had a hard day at work. You're in a good vibe because you're not justifying some perceived mistake, which is often the energy we end up in when we're blaming ourselves, right? Then we end up justifying and we bring our energy down, 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 down. It's like, just roll with it. Just choose the second thought today that's more supportive, more kind to you. And when you do that once, you start to realize, oh, wow, I just changed my mood. I went from potentially feeling mad and angry at myself to good and relaxed and happy. I kept this good feeling going. How powerful are you? If you can change your state by changing your thoughts, you are incredible. So be proud of yourself. Do it once today, do it once tomorrow. And as you start to do it, you get addicted to it because you realize that you can manipulate the way you feel in your life based on the way you think. And when you start to take that control of being the one who decides, you're like a thought bouncer. You're like, that one, nope. This one, yeah. Like you come in, it's like that scene in Knocked Up,
You need a t-shirt that says thought bouncer.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
You really should.
Yeah.
It's like that. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
A thought bouncer. That's
Yes.
exactly what we need to do for
Yes.
ourselves.
Just be a thought bouncer because what goes in there is going to marinate into that subconscious mind of yours. Water that beautiful garden, plant seeds of intention in a positive direction, and then water those thoughts. And the more you do that, the more you create a counter current of energy within your consciousness, within your being. You start to feel better. You start to achieve your goals. Things start to happen more naturally because just like the subconscious mind can be a place that automatically puts into action negative behaviors, it can also be a place that automatically puts into action positive behaviors. And then before you know it, you've created a business, you're married, you're sitting in more money, you're happier. This is absolutely what's happened in my life. This is what's happened in my clients' life. This is what happens in the people who come to Happy Camp's lives. It's so awesome to see people get on their own team and then start creating the life they actually want to be living. And you can 100% do that. Just start small.
I love that. Start small, guys. And I can attest, the more you intentionally start small and make these choices, the more it becomes second nature and you really catch yourself more often. I mean, now if I start saying anything negative to myself, like, God, why'd you do that? I'll catch myself and say, wait a second. Why was it you? That wasn't your fault. Or actually, this is going to work out better because now, and you can really play games with those conversations that you've historically had internally. And I laughed because at your example about the dinner, because it's like you were in my house last night as I was an hour late putting dinner on the table. And I was like, okay, well, I'm an hour late, but what's good about this? What was I able to get done in the hour before I started cooking? And what's going to happen as a result of this that might be good? We sat down and my kid, Riley, my son, literally turned to me and goes, Mom, this is the best chicken quesadilla I've ever eaten. And I was like, well, that's because I cooked the chicken longer. And,
Yeah.
so like I don't know. It really does shift the energy because so many times prior, I'd sit down being like, oh, I've got 3 things on the stove and we're late. And like, guys, come on, turn off the TVs. We got to go. You got to be in bed in like 10 minutes. And this was such a different energy of like, okay, we're eating an hour later than I wanted. It's going to be fine.
Yes.
So it's really powerful, these shifts. They can be. And they do, to your point, they start so small. It's all about the awareness. And then the more you practice, it becomes a muscle that builds over time. So I love this message, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you. This was such a fun thing to talk about.
We could literally, this is such a big topic. We could do a part 2 at some point. It's so, so important. And again, I do feel like we've all experienced at some point in time. So thank you for your expertise, your wisdom, your experiences. Like this has just been so fun. And I'm so grateful to you for not just having this conversation for our listeners today, but also for showing me how to live in a different, more positive energy of self-compassion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chan. This was wonderful. I'm so excited
fun.
to see you soon.
In a week.
Yes.
Happy Camp in a week. Guys, I mean, I know we're launching this episode during Happy Camp week, but you're going to get a lot of great content from us. So this is perfect. Thank you again. And to those tuning in, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with friends and don't forget to subscribe. You can also visit healingheroespodcast.com to get resources, meet the heroes, and share your ideas for future episodes. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, remember, be curious, be courageous, and be kind to yourself. You've got this.